Hi all, I'm Dave from Sailing Laguna, and if you haven't watched our channel before, we've taken a year off during the COVID pandemic to sail the Caribbean. In our last episode, we asked the question, is Culebrita the best anchorage in the world? For us, it's certainly hard to beat. Well, midweek that is, without too much of the weekend crowd anyway. After Culebrita, we made our way over to the USVI and had a look at some of the lovely beaches that part of the world has to offer. But now it's time to head off to St. Martin.
Alright, well behind me just there is the US Virgin Islands, the island of St. John. Now just over there is actually the BVIs. Now if you've been following what countries are open and closed in terms of COVID, the BVIs is closed. And in fact they actually enforce such a strict border that if you come inside the BVIs, then they have actually been fining people like $20,000. Now the problem with this all is that if you read the forums, of course, they say yes, people have been fined all these exorbitant amounts of money for entering their territorial waters. But I emailed the government of the BVI and they responded saying that we can pass through as long as we don't enter an exclusion zone. The exclusion zone is much smaller than their territorial waters. So the exclusion zone pamphlet they sent us actually had a couple of little mistakes in it as well, even though it looked like it had been professionally produced. Anyway, I guess we'll find out in a few hours whether their Coast Guard runs out to us or not, or whether we actually do pass through outside the exclusion zone, but inside their territorial waters on our way to St. Martin.
This is probably a good time to mention something that's been really important over this whole sailing adventure, and maybe just life in general. It's the need to scrutinise things people say, or who's actually saying it. So consider if someone has experience, or are they a keyboard warrior, or are they somebody with experience, but experience that's never seen them leave their home port. I've been told things like, you can't leave Australia, there's no flights out of Australia, the US Embassy is not doing visa interviews, you will get COVID if you go to America, you don't need to check out of America, you must leave the Bahamas within 24 hours of checking out, your things will get stolen if you go to the Caribbean, the French territories are completely closed. I found all these statements to either not be true or to not really be the full story.
Alright, well, land ho, here we are. We have arrived at St. Martin. And then through the night, it was sort of conditions of just under 10 knots of breeze, a little bit of lumpiness. But the big exciting thing, of course, was 2 a.m. We got some weed around a propeller, put it into reverse to try and clear that, then put it back into gear again, then had a hot engine alarm, turned it off, opened up the engine bay, and found that one of the raw water inlet pipes had actually burst or had a crack in it for some reason. Fortunately, it was right near where it goes into the raw water pump, which of course is something I've been working on. So, anyway, just had to cut that pipe off, reattach it, reprime the system, and it's been running again now for the next, 6 hours or so without issue. Anyway, here we are, we're just arriving in St. Martin, Simpson Bay, so let's go and check it out. Picture of concentration.
We finally met up with SV Atmospheric, another family who managed to escape Australia and go sailing during a pandemic. Now, the Bahamas has its beaches, the Dominican Republic waterfalls, Puerto Rico has its forts, and well, St. Martin,
Hey Cooper,
it's famous for the
does it look like
beachside
that plane
airport.
was in a hurry?
That one definitely won't. That one's coming.
We checked the airport schedule and saw that the big planes were starting to arrive just after midday. Although they are probably still travelling at 150 miles per hour, it seems as though they are approaching in slow motion. Well, right until that point where all 70,000 tonnes passes just above your heads, and the blast of the noise and the wind, thunder from just metres away. After you've seen the planes land, you can then sit back and enjoy a cool drink from one of the beach bars, while the jets, of course, are refueled and reloaded with fresh passengers and packages. I don't know if this is a regular thing, but the first big plane to take off slowly made its way to the end of the runway. The crowd gathered and they waved encouragingly at the pilot as he turned to face down the runway. I think they got the hint, as it seemed like they held the brakes on while the throttles were pushed to the deck, pinning the plane in the one spot. The jet stream whipped up over the beach as we began to receive our human sandblasting. The full force then hits you and you realise that you're literally going to be swept off your feet if you don't move out of the direction or make your way down to the water. People, beach towels, bags, everything gets blown down the beach and into the water, so just be mindful of where you put your stuff.
Caught in the jet stream.
Wow. So Sam stood a little bit further down the beach.
Thinking I'd be
all the
safe.
sand and head height here.
Have I got sand all over me?
Oh yeah, you need to go for a spin.
Now, here's a random thing to be impressed about: boat shops. Maybe due to its links with Europe and the US, and as well as its lower tax rate, Dutch and French St. Martin are a haven for boat repairs. If you are ever thinking about doing more technical boat work, then I would highly recommend doing it in St. Martin. So if you need a mechanic, a water maker, an air conditioner, if you want to buy some solar cells off the shelf and get a nice new fancy solar arch constructed and fitted, then this is the place to be. The boat chandleries, Budget Marine and Island Waterworld, which have several offices throughout the Caribbean, have got an amazing array of spare parts. We had failed to find things online, and then when we walked the aisles here, we were amazed to find the item sitting on the shelf. Not a special order, not on back order, no need for some complicated delivery process. Here it was, sitting on the shelf. Because these stores have filled their aisles with the things liveaboard cruisers need. They were really amazing.
Well, I've just been to Budget Marine. I don't think I've ever been into a marine store and actually seen as many parts actually on the shelves as what I wanted as what I have here at Budget. So anyway, I'm going to go home, going to check all the part numbers or bring the parts back, make sure they are exactly the same. But yeah, Budget Marine. Welcome to St. Martin. Thought the name was quite interesting. Not my kind of boat, I have to admit.
The next random thing I wanted to cover was sunken boats. St. Martin has an accessible harbour, or would you call it a lake, which many boats use for protection from hurricanes. However, when St. Martin received a direct hit 4 years ago with Hurricane Irma, the place was a complete shambles.
What do you think of the boat graveyard, Koopy? Weird, is it?
Now, originally I was disgusted to hear that the government prevented people from raising their sunken boats. But what I now think is that they were worried about people raising these, excuse my French, shitboxes and making the place look like some giant hodgepodge marine construction yard. It also helped them to reduce the number of undesirable derelict boats in the bay. They're the type of uninsured, if they were to sink, the owners would simply walk away type boats, leaving all sorts of environmental pollutants. So, look, I'm probably in favour of actually trying to clean up or raise the standard of boats that are actually able to be moored. The downside of this is that 4 years later, the salvage contractors are still working at trying to remove the boats from the harbour, so it still looks very junkyardish. Although you can anchor out inside the harbour, we actually tied up at the Port de Plaisance Marina. It was really close to a number of amenities such as Carrefour, the supermarket, the casino, a bunch of restaurants. The place had a gym, a pool. It was pretty well decked out. And it also had fantastic off-season rates. It was something like $24 a night, so it was pretty unbeatable. While at the marina, Sam was working on a number of jobs as well.
Great job.
What are you doing, Sven?
I'm letting it soak to try and get the sticks to
But you may have also noticed over this time just how stunningly attractive she is. This meant I did need to keep her away from some others at the marina so that she wasn't, let's say, lured by the dark side. Well, getting back to less than desirable jobs to fix while in paradise, come on down and have a look at the toilet issue and I'll explain what's going on. You're actually supposed to be able to pull this whole thing out here, but this of course is caked in, as you can see, with the calcium build up there, which is glued it into spot. So the only way you can really pull the motor out is by actually breaking these tabs off, because the macerator there, it's got no way of actually coming out. You know, it's not going to come out because there's that lip all the way around. So when you pull it out, you're supposed to be able to pull it out and have this whole black thing come out. But yeah, I don't see how that's going to happen once the toilet's been in place for a while. So the wires have come poked down, and you can see I've tied them onto that rope, and now I'll drag the rope up to draw the wires up in behind the toilet area.
Alright, well, here's a good one for you. So, in order to get a SIM card from Digicel, Digicel basically is a good provider through the Caribbean and actually has a plan of 100 gigabytes for $60 or something at the moment. Anyway, to get the SIM card, I've got to check into French St. Martin. So I've come here, I've checked into, there's a little terminal in Island Waterworld where you can check in, that's all it takes, you don't see any officials. I've checked in there, I've gone and got the SIM card, come back, I've checked out. So I've come into France and out of France, all in the matter of about 2 hours. Anyway, you got to do what you got to do. You can easily drive around French St. Martin. There are no border gates or anything, and we did that on a number of occasions. And once again, this is a bit random, but I was actually excited to buy some 240 volt appliances, such as a printer, a toaster, even some Euro threaded braided hoses for the tapware that had burst. This was the first territory that we'd actually come to that had basically European and 240 volt type of fittings. Now on a sad note, we leave St. Martin under a cloud of loss. Sam's father had been unwell with emphysema for many years now. His condition worsened, and we booked Sam into a hotel room so that she could be present via a continuous video stream to the palliative care room. Due to Australia's mandatory 2-week hotel quarantine, there wasn't much point in making a dash for home. Neville will always be remembered for his ability to solve problems, especially mechanical ones, for his hard work, and for the love of his family. Peace be with you, Neville Budden.